90.9 FM in Irvine. And standing by to join me is Jon Sherman. He's Associate Professor of Film at Kenyon College. And he's going to talk about his latest film and his role as director and co-writer on the film and a lot more. I'm really interested in hearing about his backstory and how he became a filmmaker. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Janine. Nice to see you again after, I don't know, many years.
A gazillion years.
Yeah.
You know what? I have interviewed a few people, as I mentioned, some classmates, because we went to Horace Mann together eons ago. I was there 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. And I've interviewed Gabe Sirota and Emily Wagner. And I love following the careers of our classmates to see where they end up. And there's a lot of creative people. Doing wonderful things. Yeah.
So at this, we just screened the movie. We just premiered it at Dances with Films in LA at the Chinese Theater on September 11th. And Josh Molina came to the screening, and Josh is, an actor. He's been on The West Wing and Sports Night, and he's fantastic. It was great to see him after a few years. And then Andy Green came, who is a writer. He's a TV writer, and he has a new television show. You should interview him.
Okay.
It's premiering on Apple. I don't know the title off the top of my head. I apologize. But I know it's premiering on Apple TV October 11th.
Okay.
So, and he's great because he looks like he's 25 years old still. So he's
gonna have to find out what his secret is.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't get there. Yeah.
And Emily has a new series on The Verge, I think it's called.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. That's a really interesting movie. Is it a movie or is it a series? I don't know.
It's a series.
It's Julie Delpy, a French director and writer, and she's fantastic. And yeah, I was hoping that I would see Emily at the screening, but she couldn't make it. It's hard. Like, I really wanted an in-person premiere for the film because it's a comedy, and you don't really want to do a virtual premiere, but it's tough. I know. Dances with Films, they really worked hard to make a safe in-person film festival. But since then, a lot of film festivals have gone back to being virtual. And it's a really tough time for a filmmaker because, you got to get your film out in the world, and you want it seen with an audience. And there's just a lot of uncertainty.
I mean, I guess you just have to do a lot of this, a lot of Zoom interviews, and try to spread the word. And what has it been like trying to get press and interviews and promoting?
Well, so I have a great publicist in LA. Her name is Kim Dixon at Dominion 3.
Yeah.
So I
know who that is.
Oh, you do know Kim? Okay.
I do,
she's great. Well. You should talk to her after this. So she'll be interested to know that we did this. Because she usually arranges everything. And she's been good. It's hard right now to get people's attention because, like, the Toronto Film Festival was also going on at the same time. And press is really, I think people are really dispersed, right now. There's no center. Like, film festivals are great because usually you get to interact with other filmmakers and see other people's movies. And, I think a lot of us just really feel alone and feel like we haven't been able to have that interaction, with a comedy, like a movie like this that I just did. I would normally screen it 4 or 5 times for an audience and just watch the audience and see where they're laughing and where they're bored. And when you can't do that, the way you do it now is you send a link on Vimeo, and you don't know if someone's watching it all in one setting or sitting rather, or if they're like on their phones. So, it's very difficult to get good, honest feedback.
Yes.
So, you kind of feel like you're just throwing like a note into a bottle into the void for the best, But the good thing about this movie is it's very entertaining. It's sweet. It's funny. It's not, it seems like a good pandemic movie. And I think the audience reaction confirmed that. It was nice to see people laugh together, because you forget, like, what's it like to sit with a group of people laughing?
Exactly. Yes. So give us a synopsis. What's it about?
So it's about two sort of people in their mid-40s living in Columbus, Ohio, which is where I live. I moved from New York about 10 years ago to teach at Kenyon College, which is in Gambier, Ohio, which is an hour away. And they're both divorced, and they both are single parents, and they meet on a dating website, and then they move in together within a very short period of time, and they've got to blend their 2 different families together. So, it's a family story, but it's a contemporary family story. You don't see a lot of blended family movies. You get like, Yours, Mine, and Ours is like the old version of it. But this is way more contemporary and hopefully a little more edgy and interesting, I think. definitely a movie for 2021, I hope.
Yes,
So
I watched the trailer. I put everything on my show blog, which is Get the Funk Out Show, by the way. I don't know if you know the name of my show,
yeah,
but it's getthefunkoutshow.kuci.org. I put the trailer up there, all your links. Tell me
great.
about the process of making the movie and coming up with the script.
Yeah. So it was a long story. So basically, I was independent filmmaker in New York and LA for many years. And I did a $250,000 movie, then I did a $10 million movie.
Whoa.
And so yeah, it was a big jump. And I was going to make a movie for Universal in working title a few years ago. And the movie, I was going to move to LA. I bought a house in Los Angeles. It was a teen movie, and it just kind of fell apart right before production. It was really a tough time. I had to sell the house quickly. And I had two young kids, and I really needed to get a job. And I knew that I was pretty good. I had done some adjunct teaching in
Mhm.
film in between my movies. And I applied to Kenyon from New York to teach, um, not knowing what Ohio was like or anything about it. And it was kind of the best thing that ever happened to me. Like, it's a new film program. I went to Wesleyan in Connecticut,
Yes.
which is a great film program. And Kenyon really was modeling their program on a small liberal arts school film program, but a little bit more production, a little less film history.
Okay.
So I and my colleague at Kenyon have basically started this film program, and it's great. We have a film building with a studio, and we get lots of kids from LA who come, and it's kind of this little secret, that people don't know so much about it, but the people that come really love it. And it's kind of an anti-Hollywood. I mean, it's a very narrative-based program, but it's like the anti-USC. Like, it's all about, like,
Yes.
you don't care what you shoot your film on. It's all about writing scripts and making good stories. And Kenyon has that reputation as a school for writers.
Mhm.
So we have a very strong drama program, and the film program grew out of the drama program. Like, Allison Janney went there, and Josh Radnor, and Paul Newman is most famous. And
Wow.
yeah, and then we also have a lot of when the film program started in about 2011. So from the first year of the program, we've got um, a guy named Justin Shipley, who did a show called Wrecked for TBS that he created, and is now with his brother, like, big screenwriter. A woman named Kathleen Jordan,
Mhm.
who just did a TV show with Genji Cohen for Netflix.
Oh yeah.
So, like, our students are starting to do really, really well. So it's great. It's very rewarding. But when you teach, it's very much a full-time job. Like, you're always planning classes, and then you have to be on committees and stuff. So finally,
Right.
I had a sabbatical about I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, and I had the whole year off, which is the best thing. So I wrote this script that was very loosely based on my life, but I wanted to set a movie in Columbus. It's not a city that I've ever really seen on film before. We have a lot of movies are shot in Cleveland and Cincinnati, but Columbus is a big city, bigger
Okay.
than those. And we have a tax credit in Ohio, so I knew that I was going to try to make the movie here. As long as you spend $300,000, you can get 30% back.
That's great.
So yeah, it's a great. And also, like, the fact that there have not been a lot of movies shot here means that you can get locations for very little money. Like, the movie, when you see the movie, it was made for about $550,000, but I think it looks a lot bigger than that because the production value is free, the
Yeah.
location.
Right.
So the only
Amazing.
issue was that when we were ready to go, that's when the pandemic started.
Mm.
So we were going to make the movie in 2019, but we didn't have all the money. We had to wait. And then it really started to come together in 2020, but no one was shooting, absolutely no one.
Right.
And, or at least they weren't telling people. So we were really, like, we had the money to go and we wanted to do it, but it was not going to
Mm.
be easy. And the Screen Actors Guild was not even allowing movies to go into production,
Yeah.
but we were one of the first that they approved. So,
That's
like,
incredible with all that
yeah,
going on.
yeah, it was a great story, but it was tough because the only way they would let us shoot, I mean, obviously the masks and everything, and it's before
Mhm.
the vaccine. So we had to do PCR testing for the whole crew with a 48-hour turnaround, and every day for the actors. And it was just
Add that to your stress of already making a film.
right, exactly. And
Oh.
it was so insanely expensive. And also at the time, I mean, it's hard to think of now because we have these rapid tests, but at the time we were averaging about 5 to 7 days wait time
Mm.
to get test results back, and SAG would not let us shoot if we had that.
Yeah.
So we found this COVID guru, really. I don't know how else to call her. This woman, Victoria in Columbus, who had a background in hospitals, and she decided she was going to make this her business. And she found a lab in Wisconsin that was able to turn around these tests really quickly. Now she's in Chicago, like she does big TV shows. She does all the COVID supervising for these major TV shows, which means like,
Whoa.
disinfecting set and testing and everything. So we were the trial case, and we had about 50 to 70 people on the crew. I had wanted to use a lot of my students on the crew and students from local film schools around here. I was only able to use a few because it was so expensive to get them tested. But where, when you see the movie, like where I'm particularly proud of it is that when people watch the movie at the premiere, like they didn't realize that we had shot in COVID, and there's no extras in the movie. Like, we just couldn't afford, like there's one or two scenes that have extras, but we had to put them in the testing protocol, which means they had to be tested twice before. So you'll see like my former students, my wife, Melissa, in the background of like 5 or 6 different scenes. Like if you look closely after you watch the movie, you'll see the same people over and over again. So we had to recycle and also reconceive our whole shooting idea. Like, you have to shoot it much more. Luckily, the story really lends itself to a very intimate style of filming, but you can't do a lot of big wide shots when people are wearing masks and you don't have the money to like paint out the masks.
Exactly.
So we were really careful about how we shot it. And it was amazing. And if we had gotten one positive test, we would have had to shut down. I don't know if and I don't know if we would have, because we were operating on a razor's edge. So I actually ended up having to put the COVID testing on my credit card. It had $70,000.
Whoa.
Budget. Yeah, it's about 20% you can figure now for COVID stuff. So,
but it has to be done.
It has to be done. Now it's a little easier, with the vaccine, but now there's breakthrough cases. So people are filming like crazy and people are used to it. But at the time, no one had done it before. And a lot of people called us afterwards and they were like, tell us how you did this. And you're just really relying on the crew also, is keeping themselves safe and not going out on the weekends. And we just got lucky. You
have to have this sense of solidarity on the project, that you're all committed to doing this and staying healthy as possible.
Yeah, I mean, they knew, like, no one wanted to be the person that got COVID. I mean, for many reasons, but also the person that would shut the movie down. So I think they just kind of self-quarantined. We rented them Airbnbs rather than, we couldn't put them in hotel rooms, and they just pretty much stayed together throughout the filming. And I think it really bonded the crew. It was very difficult because we were wearing masks, obviously, the whole time. It was very warm. It was in August of 2020 that we were shooting, and it was hot and just rough.
That was a tough time, August 2020.
It was a really scary time. And it was interesting because at the time, I think I was able to get Joey Slotnick and Amy Hargreaves, who star in the movie, to come from New York, because New York was really hit hard by COVID, and Ohio was relatively COVID free. And then it flipped by August, where Ohio had tons more COVID and New York was doing better, and they still agreed to come. And all these people told me, like, you can't do this. It's not responsible. And at a certain point, you just have to go for it and make the call. And thank God nobody got really sick. Thank God. But
it's amazing.
Just, it was a very calculated risk. Like we really took care of each other and the crew. But it could have gone very wrong.
How many months did it take you to get this done? All the filming and everything.
Shooting? Well, it was only 20 days of filming.
20 days.
So it's 4 or 5 day weeks. And I wrote, a lot of the film is set in the main family's house, and hopefully it doesn't feel claustrophobic because those scenes are spread out throughout the movie. But it was my house in Columbus, and Columbus, you can afford a lot more than you can in Southern California and New York. So we had 3 floors. It's a 3-floor house, and the assistant director was really brilliant, and he came up with a shooting schedule that allowed us to shoot by floor, because as the couple moves in together and time goes by, we wanted the house to change and to feel more of Lisa, the main woman's influence upon the house. She's an artist. So like we would be downstairs filming in the basement, and the art department would be upstairs prepping one scene. And then when we were done in the basement, then we would go, back up to the 3rd floor, and then the art department would be on the 1st floor, like working and painting. It was crazy. And so that means you shoot out of order completely. So you really have to be, it's hard on the actors. It's hard on me, because it's like, what scene are we today? It's like, here's scene 36, scene 81, and then scene 52, and nothing is flowing. So you just have to be in the moment and say, like, well, I got to make this scene feel as real as possible. And hopefully it'll all cut together, you know. And I think it does, but it was tough. It was really tough to shoot so out of order like that.
I mean, most likely you'll never have to face anything like this as challenging. This was
Right.
so, no one could have prepared for this, you know.
Yeah. I mean, independent film is hard enough as it is. It's like such a
Yeah.
trial.
And you add a pandemic,
Right,
you know.
pandemic to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you know, like like Netflix movies, like they can afford that extra 20%, you know, to really, you know, build out, like make sure that there's enough testing. And you know, it's studios can do it. They just have to
Yeah.
pay a little bit more money, but for independent films, it's really hard. You
Sure.
know? So
Tell me, I want to just delve into, when did you know you were interested in film? Was it high school? Who was your mentor? How did this all come down?
right. So in high school, I should say I went to Horace Mann where we both went. Well, you went there until seventh grade.
Yeah.
And I was much more interested in music at the time. Like Horace Mann didn't have a film. I don't think any high schools really
No,
had programs at
but
that
they
point.
had good music program, it seemed. Like
Yeah,
with guitar. Did you play guitar there?
I played keyboards.
Okay, I was playing guitar. Okay.
Oh, that's funny. And I was so into music. Like we had a magazine called the Pop World Press that someone the year ahead of me in class of 83 started. And it was just like we would make it on Xerox, you know, Xerox it, and we would just go see bands and review new albums. And we would go to Danceteria and see whatever new band was coming from
Danceteria.
England. Yeah. So I think the interest of film came out of the interest in music, you know.
Yeah.
And then when I went to Wesleyan, I started studying with this woman named Janine Basinger, who I loved European film before I got there. So like in high school, I would go. I mean, I'm totally going to date myself, but whatever. I would go to like the Thalia movie theater in Broadway in the 90s and go to like they had these revival, like you can't even imagine it now, like a movie theater that just showed old movies. They still have them in Paris, you know, but like I would just go and do that and just what, and that was my film education until I got to Wesleyan. And then Janine is someone who is an big American film, classic Hollywood cinema expert. So she would offer classes in like the musical or film noir or, you know, Hitchcock. And that's really where my interest in film came from. And that program has, I mean, it's kind of amazing, like the number of successful filmmakers that have come out of that program. Like, I mean, Joss Whedon, Michael Bay. I mean, there's so many. Mike White, who just did what's the show? I'm just blanking right now. The show on HBO at the resorts that everyone's talking. You know. Anyway, it's the White Lotus.
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, and so he like Miguel Arteta, who Mike and Miguel worked together on Chuck and Buck and a lot of other movies too. So like this weird school, not weird, but small school in the middle of Connecticut produced like all these amazing filmmakers. And it was a great education. And then I went to Columbia. I got my MFA from Columbia, New York. So, and that school has just amazing graduates too, for that are, you know, making movies and TV. So and then I did a small, like when I came out of school, I did a small movie for like $250,000, and that's how it started.
You did it on your own, or you worked with somebody?
I had two very close producer friends, who one of whom I knew from. He didn't go to high school with me, but we would go to concerts together, and he wanted to be a producer, and he's since produced like 25 movies. Whoa. And we raised the money privately in like $5,000 installments. Yeah, and we only raised half of it, but then we got somebody to put in at the end, and it got distribution, which was pretty. I didn't realize at the time like how unusual that was. I was like, oh yeah, this is how it happens. And then after that, I'm like, I don't even know how we did that. Like it was crazy. So yeah, and then it was really strange that Tim Perel, this producer, had met someone from Gaumont in France, which is the biggest film company in France. And then I did a big movie with them that was way too big. It shouldn't have been such a big movie, but whatever. You can rent it. It's called I'm with Lucy. And it's a quirky romantic comedy that, you know, people didn't, because it was acquired by Sony, and it was kind of too expensive to be a small independent film. So they just released it on DVD and video. So like not a lot of people have seen it. People in Europe have seen it. It came out all over the world, but it was tough. I mean, it was really tough to see that, because like if that movie had been made for a lot less, I think it would have had a nice life as an independent film. But you know, they wanted it to be more of like a studio film, which just doesn't have that kind of cast. It has a great cast, but they're not studio actors. So you can look it up, and it's I'm super proud of it. But it was a tough experience. But then after that, I got some agents in California, and then I just went up for like director for hire jobs, which is a weird world too. Like that's just like you go to LA and you just go to meetings and talk to them about their movies, and you try to get hired to be a director.
So you're just pitching yourself as a director.
Yeah, I mean, it's the funniest thing, because the only thing that studios really can control once a movie starts, like it's just like a runaway train. So what they can control is the script.
Yes.
So you'll go in for meetings to direct, and they'll just want to talk about the script. Like, how are you going to make the script better? How do you want to fix it? And you have to come in with a take about how you're going to change the script. So, I mean, you may write it, somebody else may write it, but they want to know your vision for the story more than anything, because that's kind of how they pick you. Unless you're like someone who's, unless you're like Wes Anderson or someone who has a very distinct style, like they don't know what they're going to get. So they just,
right.
they just want to talk to you about.
Well, plus, when you're in production, don't things get changed on the fly? Like a director might come and say, maybe you should say this line, or don't things switch a little?
Yeah, they do, but within reason. I mean, if it's an independent film, sure, you can change everything. If it's a studio movie, they want to see the script. Yeah, they want to see the dailies, and they'll fire you. If the dailies don't match what they think the movie is, you'll get fired. So yeah, within reason, like as long as you are still shooting the movie that they've greenlit on the page, and you have a take, that they'll let you have your own takes. But like I remember in film school at Columbia, my friend of mine, and he's now a huge director, James Mangold, he came out of USC, and he got hired to be a TV director. He did a TV movie, and they had 3 cameras, and it was like a fairly large conversation scene, and he camera A and camera B, which is focusing on the 2 main actors, and he told camera C, the third one, just wander around and pick up anything you see interesting. And they saw the camera, they fired him. So he had to go and rebuild. Then he went after Columbia. He went and had a big career. He does huge movies now. But they'll fire you. So because you're replaceable, like that's like there's more. It's supply and demand. There's a million people that want to be directors. So you just have to be really. You have to protect the movie and protect yourself, but also deliver something that's a little bit original. It's kind of a hard job. It's really a hard job. I mean, that's why like the same, like if you look at IMDb, or you see like Hollywood kind of cycles people out like every 5 to 7 years, like, directors, unless it's a director that like has been around for a while and keeps making successful movies, and then plus like it was all men then too. And then now it's changing for the better. Thank God.
For the better. Yeah.
Yeah. But like it's a business that just like chews people up. And now I tell my students, like, don't even think about the movies. Like, you got to go to TV. Like, TV is where that's the medium that, there's more jobs. You can be a writer, you can be in a writer's room, Do
you think more also streaming, like, write for Netflix, write for, Hulu, just write those kind of.
I mean, yeah, it's complicated though. Cause like Netflix, like they make movies based on their algorithms, so like, they'll do romantic, like I have a couple of recent grads who I think will do really great. Like they want to write like romantic comedies for Netflix, like The Kissing Booth. Like that's great. If it fits into that, that model. Sort of model or that lane. Yeah. But Netflix, they'll buy movies only like they're ones that they want for awards. Like they'll go to like the top film festivals and buy a couple movies, but they make their own stuff right now. So if you can figure out what they want to make, then sure. But there's just more TV than there are movies right now, and and that's frankly where the most interesting work is being done. I think like classic Hollywood directors like Billy Wilder and Hitchcock and people like that, if they were coming in now, they would be in TV. Like the Matt Weiners of the world, like Mad Men, like those are like Matt was a Wesleyan graduate, and he was smart. He was on the cutting edge of prestige television. But so now the students that I have come in, they're 18. They're like, we want to be TV directors or TV writers. We don't want to even be film, because what do they have to like Marvel movies? Like those are the only movies that are really models. No other movies do well.
Sure.
So, So it's a big time of change.
What advice would you give writers? Let's say, is it good to just write a pilot, or do you write, the pilot and the first two episodes? Like what, when
Mhm.
people are pitching themselves?
Well, now I mean, it's again like such an interesting time of change. Like now things are more like the 6 to 8 episode limited series.
Mhm.
So you could write a pilot, but you have to know the whole arc of the show if you're going to do
Yes.
that. So that's basically just like a 6 to 8 hour movie that you're pitching, right?
Yeah.
It's like a screenplay, but it's longer, hour long episodes. So yeah, you could write that, but I think all the advice that everyone tells me, like what Kenyon we've got a lot of like very successful film parents, and they just say write something original.
Mhm.
Like they can tell. Executives can tell in the first 5 pages if you know what you're doing. And you
Yeah.
just got to capture their attention, because if they're reading a stack of scripts every weekend, they're going to throw it away after page 10 if it doesn't capture them. So you just got to do something. They just want like fresh, original voices.
Yeah. Makes
So
sense.
yeah, so that's what I tell people, is just to really work on. So yeah, it's a pilot, or it's a pilot and a screenplay, but they don't even care. Like it could be a play. They're kind of platform neutral. They just want to see good, fresh writing that, captures their attention. So I don't really have any, like, I just tell people, like, write something, write the story that you want to see. And if it makes sense as a pilot, write it as that. If it's a film, write it as that. You're just trying to get someone's attention,
Sure.
and then make things, because a lot of television shows now get picked up on like 5 to 7 minute web series and things. And the
That's true.
problem
The
is
web
there's so many,
series.
but there's so many of those now too. So it's
Yes.
like, well,
Yeah.
how do you find, because everyone knows that example. Everyone knows like High Maintenance on HBO, right? That was a web series, and
Hmm.
everyone points to that. So now there's thousands of people doing that. So,
Yes. I interviewed a team that was involved in this series, and each episode was 5 minutes.
oh, that's interesting.
And
Yeah.
I thought it was a very interesting model. So you get the whole arc in this each 5 minute, 4 to 5 minute, series. And I think there were 5 or 6 episodes. I thought it was very clever.
Well,
Um,
like, yeah.
I was going to ask you, because I'm kind of in this boat. I'm a screenwriter and I've been submitting to different festivals. Do people pay attention to, you're a finalist, you're a semifinalist? Obviously, it depends on which festival. And then someone said, now you should try to pitch and get an agent. Well, that's easier said than
No,
done.
the agents won't sign you until they know they can make money off of you right away. So a
Yeah.
manager maybe is
Mhm.
better, because they're more interested in the long arc of your career.
Yes.
But then they sign fewer clients. Um, yeah, I think that it does help. I don't know if you look on Twitter now. There's just go on Twitter and follow the topic screenwriting. There's like a whole screenwriting Twitter, and it's like a whole ecosystem of people giving each other advice about that kind of thing,
That's
like
great.
semifinalists and competitions.
Mhm.
The problem is it's like, a lot of these competitions, it's like 20,000 people apply.
Yeah.
So you have to brace yourself for just reject you like there's so much rejection that
So much.
you just have to have such a thick skin,
Yeah.
not take it personally, and just apply to a bunch of things. But the problem is, like with film festivals, like they're kind of difficult too, because each one has like $100 fee. And there's
Oh,
so many
I
out there, and you
know.
can spend thousands of dollars just applying to film festivals. So you have to be really careful and
Yeah.
choose, well, why am I applying to this film festival? What do I want to get out of this? Who am I hoping sees my work? You
Hmm.
know? But for writers, it's even a little tougher, because at least with a film festival, like you have something to show. Like a screenplay is a blueprint for a movie,
Yes.
right? So they
Yes.
just want to see that good writing.
Right.
So for my students, like I tell them to rely on their networks. Like the people who graduated 10 years ago help the people that just graduated. And a
I
lot of them are
love that.
executives. Yeah, a lot of them are executives, and they show each other stuff, and they hire each other.
That's
So
great.
yeah, and I learned that from Wesleyan, because there's like a Wesleyan film mafia, and we're trying to do the same thing with Kenyon, so that like if they're good, they'll get found,
Yes.
because they just need a couple people to see it, and
Yeah.
but so yeah,
Especially like if someone helped you years ago, what that feels like to then help somebody
100%.
out.
Give it, pay it forward,
Right.
100%, and they
So
will.
important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of not very nice people in the business, so you might as well be one of the good ones.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
yeah.
What advice would you give to somebody who's struggling right now in the pandemic? They're a writer, they're a filmmaker, to stay positive.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I think that it's at least right now, hopefully people have had some time to do some writing and to be home and actually get some work done, but don't beat yourself up if you haven't. I think it's just, try to have as many different stories as possible. Maybe it's a pilot, maybe it's a screenplay, and just keep writing and have like 4 or 5 things that you're working on. So you don't get like, go back and forth between them. Cause when you get sick of one of them, you can jump to another, back to, story A, story C or something. So, I would say don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yes.
And then I would also say, like, just watch a ton of stuff and know what's out there, because the people that like, they expect you to be a connoisseur of television if you're going to be a TV writer. So
I know. Can you imagine the person that's, talking to a potential manager and they're asked, so what's your favorite show right now? Oh, I don't really watch much.
Oh yeah, you're dead. You're dead. You better watch whatever everyone's watching. It's White Lotus, Hacks, whatever. You better be totally up to date about that. And you want to write something that's like it but not like it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, but I think I don't know, like the good thing about it is that there's so many like little niche markets now, because all the different streamers, like it used to be like, to be a TV writer, you would have to write like, for CBS, and then you'd apply to like, you'd have to succeed with the widest possible audience. And now like, FX or all these, there's so many buyers out there, and they all have small niche audiences. So I think that's good news,
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. And I think that keep writing, like get inspired, by things you see in life. If, a funny moment, something unexpected. I mean, I'm constantly like writing stuff down, getting ideas, and write shorter things. Like I got really bold in the pandemic and I submitted to Film Freeway and I got into the Rhode Island Film Festival. I got some rejections, but I'm like, whatever, just keep writing. Don't take it personally and stop. That would be ridiculous.
I mean, the list of festivals and things that I get rejected, it's not even, I let myself get upset about it for 1 minute. It's like, you give yourself 1 or 2 minutes, then you move on.
I agree.
Like, you can't, it's just ridiculous. It's hard enough as it is.
Yes.
So, like, don't take it personally.
Right.
And give it to your friends, get feedback. Like you'll know if it's not a good one, they'll kind of tell you without telling you. So, you have to have a circle of people that you trust, that you show your work to, right?
Definitely.
So that's important. Have a strong network. Yeah.
Where can people find out more about your film, see your film, learn about you?
So the next stop for it is the San Diego Film Festival. So if you go to the San Diego Film Festival website, San Diego is now mostly virtual. So they can watch the film on there. I think it starts like around October 10th and they can rent it. There's a window that they can rent it. So just go to the San Diego Film Festival website. And then after that, we'll see. Hopefully, it'll be hopefully some more festivals, but we're hoping to sell it very soon. So, yeah, we'll see.
Are you coming out to San Diego?
No, because it's virtual.
Okay.
Yeah, I wish, they're a great film festival, but the movies that they're only showing like 5 or 6 in person, and it's all the like Oscar hopefuls. Yes. So I understand that. Like the smaller independent films are pretty much all in the virtual space.
Definitely.
So yeah. So I wish I were. I've never been to San Diego actually.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I'd love to go. I've heard. Yeah. So
your next film.
Next one, for sure. Well, hopefully soon we'll be back in a place where we can have film festivals again in person, because this is a drag. No one wants to watch it on their computer.
I know. But bravo to you for being able to be so adaptable and just move full steam ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm super proud of it. So yeah, thank you. Well, it was great to talk to you again.
You too. Keep me posted on your future projects as well.
Will do. All right. Good luck with your writing too.
Thank you. Be well.
Okay.